Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the NRW. I am your host today, Rob Medina, and I thank you all very much for joining me here today. So, with this review for the film that I'm going to be doing here called Take the Night, I'm going to keep this review rather short and sweet. This movie came out last week, and I was really fortunate enough to check out the film a few days ago, but I was intending on doing the review for this film pretty much right away, but I actually wanted some time to reflect on the film because the thing is that I thought this movie was just okay. It's not bad by any means. There was a lot of great elements about this movie that I did enjoy, but I always felt like the execution to the story didn't really work all that well for me. And the plot synopsis to this film goes as follows: when a resentful brother organizes a prank kidnapping, he unwittingly hires career criminals who have plans of their own. So with that plot synopsis right there, when I read it, I was actually intrigued with it, and I was curious to see how this will all be executed because it definitely does have a heist element to this film that is very much prevalent. So having seen the film and seeing how everything plays out, one of the biggest issues that I have with the movie was the fact that I felt like there was something missing when it came to connecting with the characters. And that's not to say that the actors in this film were not very good. They actually were very good. In fact, all of them were very good. I'm going to point out here the one of the main characters in this movie, in Chad, who's played by the writer and director of the film, and Seth MacTeague. He's actually very good in this part. But what's interesting for me about that character is that I actually expected that kind of a character, because you see that he has a lot of turmoil that he's been dealing with for quite some time. He's a veteran as well too. So there's that element of that character that makes sense why he's so reserved and very standoffish in a lot of ways. But he also has very strong leadership qualities about him, but he's straight to the point and doesn't bullshit around. And I actually like that about the character. But for some reason, when I was watching the film, I felt like a character of that sort should be much older. I'm not saying that Seth was wrong in casting himself for this character, or that he didn't do a good job. He did a great job. But in my mind, I kept picturing a much older man who has gone through the experience of what this character has gone through, for him to be able to have a certain aura about him that has this mysteriousness about him that comes with age, if that makes any sense. But despite that nitpick that I had about that particular aspect of the character in terms of the character's age, he was really good in the movie. But the other aspect of the story has to do with the two brothers here, William Chang and Robert Chang, played by the actors Roy Huang and Samsung Lee. They were actually very good, and I actually thought their relationship with this that you see in this film was kind of interesting. And what I mean by that is that when you learn about how these two brothers grew up with this wedge stuck between them, because their father, I should say, favored Robert over William. And it's due to the fact that Robert showed a lot more potential, had a lot more to offer, whereas William was kind of more or less the black sheep of the family. And after their father had passed away, Robert and William are in more or less control of the company, which is very, very successful, that's left by their father. And they're pretty wealthy as well, too. So there's a certain successful element about what they've been able to accomplish because of their father, but given that Robert was more or less the brains of this operation, or that's going to be the brains behind this operation here, he definitely has a certain quality about him where he's the guy that is going to be responsible in getting the job done. But his biggest thing is that he's socially awkward. He's the kind of guy that no one really likes to be around for one reason or another. And whereas William, on the other hand, he's the guy that everyone likes to be around, and he's trying to set up a surprise birthday party for his brother, but no one wants to be a part of it. So he's trying to force them to be a part of his birthday party by giving them overtime for them to attend a party on the rooftop of the building that they run this business. So I thought that was rather unique in that respect, but we don't get a whole lot of that from that perspective from other people who are working there with the two brothers. But you do get to learn about how they have been raised, where one was favored over the other, and that was a clear clash between the two of them, because you can clearly see that they, in some way or shape or form, don't really like each other, but yet they still love each other despite their differences. And despite the fact that they don't really necessarily get along all that well at times, but you can see that there are moments where they do reconnect. And there's even part in the film too where you see that Robert is watching an old videotape of when they were kids, where they were celebrating his birthday. His father's giving a really nice gift to him, and Williams want to chime in and to help celebrate with this. And his father's telling him to back away and to stay in his corner, more or less. So you can see where this all began at a very young age, and it's always been like that between these two brothers. But they've never had the ability to try to make amends in that particular part of the relationship. And I thought that was something that was missing that could have been delved into more into this story, or at least between these two brothers. And what's also interesting too is that the character of Chad, played by Seth here, he has a brother as well too, by the name of Todd, who is played by the actor Brendan Keil Cook. That relationship between these two brothers is more or less kind of the same scenario with them, where they have a father that one brother gets along with very well, and the other one, in this case being Chad, does not like the guy. And there's certainly a wedge that's also put between these two brothers here, but yet they still work together. So there's that two different side of the spectrum of these two relationships here, of these brothers, where they work well with each other, but they don't really like each other that much, but they still love each other, I would say. So it's kind of a weird thing to kind of point out here. And I thought that was really, really interesting, considering what their intentions are. So I thought that was a really unique perspective of this particular story here. And that's what's more or less kind of like a heist movie. What I think the film kind of failed on for me personally was that I didn't find really a lot of the characters to be all that interesting for me to really be invested with. And even though there's a lot of really nice, wonderful moments that you get to learn about these characters, especially when it comes to their vulnerabilities, and you get to see how they deal with these insecurities that they have been dealt with, I would assume, their entire lives. You have pockets of those moments that occur, but outside of that, it was just not a whole lot of interest for me in the film altogether, because there were times I just felt that I just could not really be that invested with the story. But what's really unique though for me to say about me pointing that out is because even though I wasn't that interested, I still was interested in checking out the film, because I wanted to see how everything would play out. Because once you kind of find out who is really the brains behind this whole operation about this robbery that's occurring, dealing with the two brothers' company, it's supposed to be a surprise ending, which kind of puts everything together. It brings everything full circle, if you will. And not to say that I expected it, but once you learn about it, it makes sense. But for some reason, I still wasn't that invested with that final ending of this film. But oddly enough, this is a film that I would go back and watch again, because I want to see if my perception with the direction of the story they're going with here will probably be different for me the second, possibly third viewing somewhere down the line here. But despite the fact that I don't think the film was all that great, there still has some great qualities about the movie that I think a lot of people can enjoy. But I still felt like there's a lot of missing pieces that really kept me invested with the overall story, including with these characters. So if I were to give a rating right now off the top of my head here, I would say, at least for me, that this movie is worth a shot. And those are my thoughts on the film. If you have seen the film, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the NRW. Make sure you share, like the videos, and hit the notification bell while you're down there. And we also have social media for the NRW too. On Instagram, New Release Wednesdays. On Facebook, Nerds Rule the World. And on Twitter, at the NRW. And you can follow me on my social media accounts as well. On Instagram and Twitter, Mr. Rob Medina. On Facebook, Rob Medina. And my show's social media account on Instagram, You're So Cool with Rob Medina. And on Twitter, You're So Cool with WRM. I hope you guys enjoy this review. And until next, everybody, stay safe out there and cheers.